Hey guys, Jonathan here at JK's Gun Channel. Wanted to share with you my impressions and experience and the changes I have made on my Kimber 2K11 base model. I picked this gun up, because of availability. I could not get the target model. B, I kind of dig the colors of this one better than the target model. C, of course, the price. My local gun store provided me with a great trade on a gun that I was wanting to part with, and it really all kind of came together to make sense for me. If you've seen this, as low as I'm going to be in the algorithms, you've probably seen all the basic details about what the gun comes with, etc. I won't bore you with all that, but I'll probably touch on a lot of it as I tell you about my experience and the modifications I've made. I've been using primarily Prodigy mags with practice, dry fire practice, and practice on the range. The Checkmate mags are excellent. They're a little slicker than the Prodigy mags, but at the time I'm filming this, I've got over 1,300 rounds in the gun, and I've had no failures with either magazine and or the vast majority of the ammunition that I've used. The one exception to that is there's some Norma Rival 158s out there that are really slow moving, and I haven't, and the gun didn't like those. I shot probably 20 or 30 through it, and I had 2 or 3 failures during that, and I've got a 9-pound spring coming to replace the 10-pound spring in the gun, and it may allow me to run that Normal Rival because I shot the Normal Rival 158 through my Glock all last fall during the competition season, and I really like that ammunition. So I'd like to be able to run it in this. I think it would really work nice. As I mentioned, I've got a 9-pound spring coming. I just started with some Wilson Combat shock buffs in the gun as well, and that should give me some variability running that ammo. So hopefully that'll work out fine. But primarily, it's just had a steady diet of Blazer brass, Blazer aluminum, and Federal Champion, and then a little bit of AAC. But it has been perfect in terms of reliability. So I'm very happy to report that. That's the main thing people are wanting to know, as this thing is early, as it's still in its early stages of hitting the market. And is, how reliable is the gun? It's a little bit of a newbie in this category. Double stack competition style type firearms. So onto the gun itself, laying here, you'll probably see this Ranger band. For whatever reason, the way I build my grip, there's not a lot of, I don't get a lot of press in the V of my hand. And all my 1911s, I end up taping, or I found these Ranger bands. I think Strike Industry makes them. They're inexpensive. They have a little finger groove, which I'm still a little bit undecided on that. I may end up shaving that off, but it does hold the grip safety down well for you. So I do like what it provides there, and I don't think it distracts too much from the overall beauty of the gun. I did put a Holosun 507 comp on it. These days I'm kind of preferring the Vortex Defender XL, but it came in the package with a 507 comp plate by C&H, and so instead of spending another $70 on a plate, I said, I got a nice comp, and it's a great optic, so let me do that. So I've got that on there. That I've checked it periodically to make sure everything has stayed tight, and it has. It seems to be a really good plate system. I like that. Let's roll the gun back over here. Also see, whatever reason, when I have my weekend grip, I really got to have some texture. So not only did I add some grip tape to the port side of the firearm, that grip tape also has some double-sided tape under it, to help the grip tape stick, because that double-sided tape sticks to everything, and B, it also added even a little bit more relief or width to the side there, so I can really get good purchase on my left hand when gripping the gun. One of the last things that I've done too is the mag release. It was a little small. It was a little low, a little hidden. And so Dawson Precision, I added an extended mag release with the little optional pad. And man, and I know that I run the risk of, accidental mag drops during the heat of shooting, but right now I don't interact with it at all while shooting, and it has sped up my reloads significantly. So I'm happy about that, and I'm glad that I added it. Also too, for those of you saying, well, what about table starts? Well, you're right. If you push down on the gun when you pick it up, it will eject a mag. So you do have to be cognizant about that, the occasional table start that you may get. But let me push down on it. Yep. So you can do that. A lot of people will tell you to grab the gun with your weak hand and lift it up off the table and then grab with your right. I think that's technically the way you should do it. So I probably need to practice that a little bit. Let's see, what else? Probably the most obvious thing is when I decided to get this one, the main thing other than coloration that it had or didn't have was the well, the stand chin mag well, which looks great on the gun. Over on Brian Enos forums, I've been following along on this thing, and somebody over there made a suggestion that the Dawson Ice mag well went on without about 85-90% of the way without having without quite fitting, and that if you dremeled one a bit you might could get it on. Well, they were right. That's what I did. I've got a Dawson Ice mag well here, and again, that's another key point about the reloads. It's sped my reloads up significantly. It took me probably an hour of dremeling to get it on and off, to get it to fit properly, and man, it's on there now, and it's perfect. I still have feelers out for a stand chin mag well for the gun, and hopefully I can come up with that, because I really prefer the way it looks over this, but this is definitely functional. Okay, so yeah, on to a little bit more about the gun itself. The gun is clear. That I probably should have shown that right at the beginning. I'm not a high-tech YouTube maker, filmmaker, but so I don't have anything holding my camera. But this gun has a very, very nice trigger, very, very short reset. It really is nice. I have gone in and adjusted the port side leaf spring, or the far left spring a bit, a couple times to bring the trigger pull down just a little bit, because it was about a pound heavier at 3.5 pounds than my Glock Timney Glock trigger, and I just wanted a little less trigger pull. And I got it down to about 2.5 pounds, which is good for me. It's between 2.2 and 2.4, and the trigger pull and reset on it is just excellent. All the drills that I normally run when I'm practicing, it has ended up that I can do them a good bit faster with this gun. So and that light trigger, that Super Crisp trigger there, that very little travel has got a big part to do with it. You'll see that trigger too. It's a little bit of a long trigger, which I kind of need. A lot of the 1911s, 2011s come with a really short trigger because the grips are big. But this one's on out there a little bit, and it allows me to ride it perfectly there in the kind of at a diagonal in the middle of my pad, without really thinking about it. When I'm shooting a normal 1911 like my Dan Wessons and stuff that have a shorter trigger, seems like I get it in there dang near to my groove on my knuckle, and I have to be aware on draw and presentation before the shot of where to put my finger, or I'll put too much finger on the inside. So it's just a simple matter of getting a longer trigger module, but this one came the way I like it, right from the factory. So other features and thoughts about the gun. I love the finish. One thing since I've started competing probably two and a half years ago that I've noticed on all the different guns that I've used is holster wear is terrible on some of these really nice pistols, and between the dry fire and the the large amount of shooting that's done, the holster wear becomes very evident real quick. I'm not sure if that's PVD or diamond-like carbon coating, DLC. Whatever that stuff is, it's tough. And so that shiny stuff that you see there, it's beautiful. It takes well to a little bit of a silicone cloth. It shines up really nice, and it's just, I guess it's just super slick and hard. Very little, or well, actually not very little. There is no holster wear on that slide. My holster does touch a good bit right there around the trigger guard, but even on the more powder or bead blasted look finish there, I haven't. There's nothing there. They really did a good job on the finish of this gun so far. And just like with anything new, you handle it more when it's new than later on, but it's been handled a bunch in the last 3 weeks, and it still looks like when I pulled it out of the box, it just a really pretty gun. And I know that pretty don't bring on the bacon, but man, that sure don't hurt. It looks really good. Me being one-handed right this second, I'm not going to take the firearm apart and show you, but there's another thing in there. It's called a Marvel cut, and the Bullseye guys, way back in the day, were always beveled the inside of the slide so that the disconnector didn't provide a bump in racking. And it's very rare. You have to pay somebody a lot of money to do that typically. This gun came with that Marvel cut in the other side of that slide, and so when you rack it in hand, I mean, it feels great because it doesn't have that bump to contend with, but you can only imagine how that affects the fire, how it affects the action of the gun when it's firing. And then of course the Bullseye guys did it because it was more accurate when it was loading a first round after a reload, when it didn't have to contend with that bump. So apparently the lockup was better and more consistent after a reload, when you insert a mag and got a new bullet in the barrel as a result of the disconnector not having to ride over that shelf. So now there's a beveled cut in there, and it's called a Marvel cut. I don't know if that's what Kimber calls it or not. It's certainly not in their advertisements or descriptions of the gun, but if you look on their website, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. It's a shallow ramp cut in the feed on the bottom side of the slide, and it really makes it feel nice. And I picked up a black point holster off the Kimber website to fit it because a standard Blade Tech 2011 holster would not fit, and I mounted it to my Blade Tech drop hang system, holster system, and I'm running it on my Weber tactical belt, and it runs really good. I do think at 40 plus ounces, probably close to 50 fully loaded, that plastic drop hang may not be quite enough. So I do have a Lee drop, aluminum drop system coming, hanger coming to go on that Weber tactical to stiffen things up a little bit and maybe even get it another 1/2 inch off of my side, for better draws, more consistent draws. But I do have that coming. But y'all, I hope this is good. I hope you enjoyed this, and you get some detail from it. I will post a couple of pictures, probably of me putting the magwell on, and maybe even some competition footage of my first competition with it. I did manage to get one stage win in my first competition with it, and took 10th overall out of 75 shooters, which I was pretty happy about, as I was still getting used to the gun, particularly the trigger. I was worried after shooting a mile-long Glock trigger for so long that I'd have an AD or something during a mag change, so I was pretty pensive while shooting the gun during the match, but it still functioned well. Again, 100% flawless function, and a lot of questions. Everybody's very interested about the new kid on the block when it comes to 2011s, or particularly in that audience, that group of shooters are all very curious to see what this gun is like, because it's half the price of what it's competing with and against, half the price or less of what it's competing against typically. And I wouldn't know. I can't compare it to some of that other stuff. I have had a small staccato, which doesn't compare to this, but I've never shot the larger staccatos. I've never shot an MPA, though I'm a big fan of the MPA, and of course the people at MPA, but I can't compare that to those because I've just never shot them. I can just tell you my impressions of this and against what I've been shooting for quite some time. So the closest thing in quality that I've shot to this would be a 226 X5, and I do prefer this to the 226 X5, primarily for nothing else other than the trigger. The gun shoots great. It returns to 0 for me if I do my job and focus on my spot. Recoil impulse is reliable. Again, it fits my hand well. My grip's good, so it returns. The dot returns every time I shoot. Double taps are nice and quick. The reactive shooting is scary accurate at 15 yards with roughly 50 splits. I can put them all in a baseball in the A zone at 15 yards, pretty doggone quick. Very accurate gun. Mechanically, she's much more accurate than me. I can put them all in a head box at 25 yards most of the time, and it's not the gun holding me back when it comes to that. The shots go where the dot's at when the trigger is pressed. So again, 2K11, if you like the video, please press like. And I've got a newer channel. Don't expect to get a whole lot of followers, but I'm just trying to manage the videos, the match videos and impressions that I have for myself. But you're more than welcome to subscribe if you'd like to follow that. Thanks.